Imagine a world where every challenge was erased, every pain softened, every risk replaced with a warm blanket of comfort. Picture a life where AI solves your problems, screens fill your empty hours, and a pill numbs every ache of the soul. Sounds like paradise, doesn't it? But what if this paradise is a prison? What if the cost of an easy life is the death of your spirit? The ancient Greeks knew this truth. Danger and hardship were not curses but gifts. Fear was a god to be honored, not fled. Comfort, not struggle, was the true enemy. They lived to emulate the titanic myths of Heracles, who wrestled beasts, and Odysseus, who braved the wine-dark sea. Their lives sang with meaning because they dared to face the fire. Today, we've inverted their wisdom. We build walls of safety, chasing a life free of friction. The 19th century philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche saw this shift with piercing clarity. He warned that humanity, seduced by ease, was taming itself into something less, something domesticated, like a wolf bred into a lapdog. If you were offered two paths, one of plush comfort, endless Netflix, and shallow pleasures, or one of jagged peaks, fierce storms, and soul-deep meaning, which would you choose? One leads to a flickering half-life, a shadow of your potential. The other forges your soul into something majestic, something alive. This is a call to reject the cult of comfort and step into the forge of greatness. This is a call to live dangerously. The domestication of the human spirit. Picture a wolf, gray and wild, eyes gleaming under a moonlit sky. It hunts, it fights, it thrives in the raw pulse of nature. Now picture a Shih Tzu, curled in a velvet bed, dependent on its master's hand. The Shih Tzu is a descendant of that wolf, but centuries of comfort have dulled its fangs, dimmed its instincts, and silenced its howl. This is Nietzsche's warning. We are becoming Shih Tzus of the soul. We swipe through screens in dark rooms, eat pre-packaged meals, and drown our restlessness in distractions. We've traded the wild majesty of the wolf for the cute, fragile safety of the lapdog. Nietzsche called this the rise of the last man, a creature who lives for comfort, not conquest, for equality, not excellence. The last man doesn't dream of scaling mountains. He dreams of a better couch. He doesn't wrestle with life's pain, he medicates it. In The Giver, Lois Lowry paints a chilling picture of this fate, a society of sameness where pain, war, and suffering are erased, but so are love, color, and joy. The world is gray, orderly, safe, and lifeless. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World echoes this warning, with its soma drug offering bliss at the cost of humanity. These stories aren't fiction, they're prophecies. Every time we choose ease over effort, we inch closer to their dystopias. But it doesn't have to be this way. Within you lies the potential for something greater. Not a Shih Tzu, but a wolf. Not a last man, but a creator, a warrior, a spark of the divine. Nietzsche called this potential the Übermensch, the one who rises above the herd to forge their own values, their own meaning. The path to this greatness isn't paved with comfort. It's carved through suffering, resistance, and courage. The beauty of suffering. Suffering is the crucible where greatness is forged. The ancient Greeks understood this, celebrating tragedy as a sacred art. Their plays didn't shy from pain, they reveled in it, knowing that through struggle, the human spirit shines brightest. Nietzsche echoed this in On the Genealogy of Morals. The meaninglessness of suffering, not suffering itself, was the curse that lay over mankind so far. Pain isn't the enemy, purposeless pain is. When suffering is given meaning, it becomes a fire that refines you, not a weight that crushes you. Consider the boxer, sweating and bleeding in the ring, chasing the dream of a world championship. To the crowd, his pain looks like madness. To him, it's fuel. Every bruise, every aching muscle, is a step toward his ideal. Or think of Malala Yousafzai, shot by the Taliban for daring to learn. She could have chosen silence, safety. Instead, she turned her pain into a global cry for education, becoming a beacon of courage. These are life affirmers, people who don't flee suffering but embrace it, channeling it into something transcendent. Contrast this with the life deniers, those who see pain as evil to be avoided at all costs. They build lives of bubble wrap, seeking safety in routines, institutions, and algorithms. They want AI to write their stories, drugs to dull their fears, and equality to erase all competition. But safety breeds fragility. When you avoid the gym, your muscles atrophy. When you avoid life's challenges, your soul does too. Nietzsche asked, what is the purpose of civilization? Is it to make everyone safe and equal, or to produce higher beings who push humanity forward? The answer lies in your choices. Will you affirm life's wild, messy beauty, or deny it for a sterile cage? The hero's call. Every great story hinges on a choice, to stay in the Shire or to venture into the unknown. In The Lord of the Rings, Bilbo and Frodo could have stayed home, sipping tea by the fire, but their story begins when they step out, facing dragons, orcs, and despair. Without danger, there's no adventure. Without risk, there's no glory. Your life is no different. You can write a boring tale, safe but forgettable, or an epic one, scarred but unforgettable. This is the hero's call, and it's not easy to answer. Suffering stings, loneliness bites, failure burns. I know this firsthand. Last winter, I sat alone on a mountain, the wind cutting through me, my heart heavy with isolation. I could have scrolled through Tinder or drowned the feeling in a bottle. Instead, a voice rose within me. Loneliness is a gift. Use it. I poured that pain into writing, into reflection, into becoming. And in that act, I felt alive, more connected to the world than any app could offer. Suffering, when embraced, doesn't just build strength. It uncovers joy, depth, and purpose. In Batman Begins, Bruce Wayne learns this truth. A vigilante is just a man lost in the scramble for his own gratification, his mentor says. But if you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, then you become something else entirely, a legend. This is the path of the life affirmer, to find a worthy ideal and let it guide you through the storm. It's not about escaping pain, but redeeming it. It's about turning scars into stars. The path of the life affirmer. So how do you live this way? How do you reject the Shih Tzu and reclaim the wolf? Nietzsche offers a map, not a manual. The path is yours to forge, but here are its cornerstones. 1. Embrace resistance. Seek out challenges, not comfort. Take the harder job, the tougher conversation, the riskier dream. Resistance is the whetstone that sharpens your soul. 2. Find your why. Pain without purpose is misery. Pain with purpose is power. Choose an ideal, be it art, justice, or discovery, and let it anchor you. As Nietzsche said, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. 3. Overcome yourself. The greatest enemy isn't the world, it's your weaker self. Every fear you face, every doubt you conquer, makes you stronger. The Übermensch is born through self-overcoming. 4. Suffer with honor. Don't curse pain, bless it. See it as a teacher, not a tormentor. When loneliness or failure strikes, ask, what can this teach me? How can this make me more? 5. Create, don't consume. The last man consumes endless shows, likes, and snacks. The life affirmer creates art, ideas, change. Build something that outlives you. This path isn't easy. It's a gauntlet of fire and ice, of heartbreak and triumph, but it's the only path to a life that sings. Every golden age, ancient Greece, the Renaissance, the moon landing, came from those who chose this road. They didn't wait for permission or safety. They built cathedrals, wrote symphonies, and walked on stars because they dared to suffer well. The stakes of your choice. The world is at a crossroads. One path leads to a future of last men, pacified by comfort, equal but empty. The other leads to a new dawn, where free spirits, wolves, not lapdogs, create a culture of vitality and beauty. Your choice matters. Every time you choose, courage over fear, effort over ease, you tip the scales. You don't need to slay dragons or climb Everest. Your battle might be saying no to a soul-crushing job, writing the book you've buried in your heart, or facing the mirror of your own flaws. These are heroic acts, and they ripple outward. Nietzsche's challenge is clear. Live dangerously, not recklessly, but purposefully. Affirm life as it is, wild, painful, glorious. Don't let the world tame you into a Shih Tzu. Reclaim the wolf within. Let your suffering be your forge, your pain your chisel. Carve a life of meaning, not comfort. The Greeks knew it, Nietzsche preached it, and now it's your turn to live it. So what will you choose? The easy path, where you fade into gray, or the hard one, where you burn bright? The forge is waiting. Step into the fire and become a legend. The tyranny of the algorithm. In the modern world, you don't need chains or cages to imprison people. You just need an algorithm. Think about it. Algorithms curate your feed, recommend your next show, suggest your next purchase, even guide your conversations. They learn your fears, your pleasures, your habits. They know when you're sad. They know what will keep you scrolling. And they use that knowledge not to liberate you, but to pacify you. This is not a conspiracy. It's code. Efficient, invisible, and effective. These tools designed for convenience slowly rewire your instincts. Instead of looking to the horizon, you look to your screen. Instead of venturing into the unknown, you refresh your notifications. What was once a tool becomes a master. A wolf doesn't check his reflection in a pond to see how many likes he got. He doesn't ask for permission before hunting. He trusts his instincts, his drive, his hunger. But we second-guess our passions and wait for validation in hearts and retweets. The danger isn't just addiction, it's identity erosion. The algorithm makes you predictable, and what is predictable is controllable. The more you conform to its patterns, the less wild you become. Nietzsche didn't write about TikTok, but he didn't need to. He warned of the herd mind, the slow death of individuality beneath layers of social norms and mass approval. In a world where everyone is watching, few dare to be seen. Everyone performs, no one transforms. The education of cowards. Our schools were once places of initiation into adulthood, into ideas, into responsibility. Now in many places, they're padded rooms, sanitizing challenge into compliance. A student struggles, remove the test. Someone's offended, remove the book. Life is hard, lower the bar. We call it progress, but it's regression. We are teaching young minds not how to think, but how to avoid thinking that hurts. Not how to stand up in a storm, but how to demand it stops raining. Compare this to the Spartan agoge. At 7 years old, Spartan boys were removed from their families and thrown into a system that prized discipline, pain, and courage. They learned to steal, to fight, to endure. It was harsh, unforgiving, even brutal, but it forged warriors who would face death without blinking. I'm not saying we need to send kids to war, but we do need to ask, what are we preparing them for? A life of avoidance or a life of meaning? We've replaced wisdom with information, resilience with comfort, and initiation with insulation. We've confused safety with growth. But no tree grows strong in a greenhouse. No soul becomes fierce in a world wrapped in bubble wrap. A culture of numbness. We live in a society that is expert at avoiding feeling. Anxiety, here's a pill. Boredom, here's a screen. Sadness, here's a new dopamine hit. Scroll, click, buy, repeat. But what if these feelings aren't problems to be fixed, but signals to be honored? What if your boredom is a sign that your life lacks depth, that you're not connected to purpose? What if your anxiety is the whisper of a buried truth you're refusing to face? What if your sadness is not weakness, but the soul's mourning for a life unlived? We have become numb, not by accident, but by habit. Numb to the injustice around us. Numb to the miracle of being alive. Numb to beauty, to wonder, to risk. We call it normal, but numbness isn't peace, it's paralysis. It's death on layaway. And it creeps slowly until one day you wake up and realize your fire has gone cold, not because someone put it out, but because you stopped feeding it. The myth of balance. There's a mantra you hear often. Life is about balance. It sounds wise, moderate, reasonable. But what if balance is just another word for mediocrity? Think of the people who shaped the world. They were not balanced. They were obsessed, consumed, on fire. Jesus wasn't balanced. Neither was Joan of Arc, or Nikola Tesla, or Harriet Tubman, or Steve Jobs, or Frida Kahlo, or Muhammad Ali. These were not lukewarm lives. They were blazing. They didn't avoid suffering. They invited it. They didn't seek safety. They stormed it. They were not domesticated. They were wild with purpose. Of course, balance has its place after battle, after the race, after the masterpiece is made. But as a goal, as a lifestyle, it is the polite excuse of people who are afraid to burn. You were not made for balance. You were made for depth, for fire, for greatness. The fire in the mirror. There's a moment when the hero stops blaming the world and starts facing the mirror. This is the hardest moment of all, because the world is easy to blame: systems, parents, schools, governments, and many of these do play a part. But there comes a time when you must look yourself in the eyes and ask, what part of me is complicit in my own suffering? Am I avoiding my calling because it's hard? Am I numbing myself instead of changing my life? Am I waiting to be saved when I should be saving myself? This is the beginning of transformation, not when you slay a dragon, but when you face your shadow. The journey inward is more terrifying than any outer challenge, but it's also more rewarding. Because once you confront the enemy within, your fear, your laziness, your self-pity, you become unstoppable. This is what Nietzsche meant by self-overcoming. It is the art of becoming someone you weren't yesterday, someone braver, stronger, more alive. The fire you seek is not in the mountain, it's in the mirror. The return of the wild man and woman. There is an archetype rising from the ashes of modernity, the wild man. He is not the savage, not the brute, but the one who remembers the forest, the hunt, the silence between stars, the pain that purifies. He rejects the cage of careerism, the leash of likes, the chains of shallow success. He walks barefoot on the earth. He lifts not just weights but burdens. He cries without shame. He bleeds without complaint. He howls when the moon is full, not out of madness, but out of memory. And beside him the wild woman rises. She is not tamed by trend or title. She is fierce, intuitive, unashamed of her power. She creates with her hands, her womb, her mind. She dances in firelight, not to entertain, but to remember who she is. Together they are not regressions to the past, but revolutions of the future. This is not gendered ideology. This is archetypal memory. Deep in your DNA is a blueprint for something ancient, vital, and wild, and the world is starving for its return, the art of sacred struggle. We don't need more comfort. We need more sacred struggle. There is a way to suffer that elevates, a way to fight that blesses, a way to weep that transforms. You see it in the sculptor who chips at marble until beauty emerges. You see it in the athlete who trains in darkness for a gold that may never come. You see it in the mother who labors, bleeds, and breaks just to bring life into the world. None of this is comfortable. All of it is holy. We have desacralized struggle. We treat it as an inconvenience instead of a right. But ask any elder worth their salt, and they'll tell you, your pain is trying to initiate you into manhood, into womanhood, into wisdom. But instead of passing through the fire, we numb, we run, we scroll. Your suffering is sacred. It's the price of transformation. Don't waste it. From machines to myths, we are drowning in technology and starving for meaning. Every year we invent faster machines, smarter algorithms, stronger robots. But who is teaching us how to live? Science can split the atom, but it can't tell you what's worth dying for. AI can write a poem, but it can't mean it. Data can predict your behavior, but it can't explain your soul. We are engineers of tools, but orphans of myth. And a human without myth is like a tree without roots, easy to knock over. You don't just need a job, you need a quest. You don't just need fitness, you need honor. You don't just need therapy, you need initiation. We need to stop living like machines and start living like myths. Becoming the flame. What if the purpose of life is not to avoid the fire, but to become it? To stop fearing the pain and start embodying the flame? To burn for something greater than comfort, greater than self? The fire destroys, yes, but it also purifies. It reveals. It illuminates. You don't light a fire to stay safe. You light it to see. When you become the flame, you stop being a victim of circumstance. You start being a creator of worlds. You become dangerous, not in a destructive way, but in a sacred way. A threat to apathy, a rebellion against despair. You were not made to dim, you were made to blaze. The choice remains. The world doesn't need more obedient citizens. It needs more wild hearts, more poets who write with blood, more builders who lift with soul, more rebels who love deeply and live truthfully. The systems of comfort will always beckon. The sofa will always seem softer than the mountain, but comfort is not where legends are born. Legends are made in the mud, in the ring, in the desert, in the soul's dark night. You have one life, one spark, one chance to carve meaning into the stone of time. Don't waste it in comfort. Don't waste it pretending you're weak. The fire is waiting. Your myth is waiting. Live dangerously. Live fully. Live now.